So a brief overview of what we'll be creating is just something like this, where we have a bunch of users. In this use case, I'm just going to say 7 users, and we have an admin, we have 2 managers, and we have 3 technicians. So it really just depends on what you want to create here. And then you have jobs. Here's normal jobs, and then we have tasks. So this is the task where each person will see, while the admin and the manager have access to all the tasks. They just show you a use case. In the layout section now for the task, I'm signed in as Michael. Michael is your overall admin. If you look at me here, so you can see I am an admin, so I could be able to see everyone. Now let's say I sign in as, let's use the technician, Kira. Let's come over here and sign in as Kira Todd. So Kira would only be able to see our own tasks, right? And if I sign in as Chris is a manager. Chris will be able to see everybody's tasks because Chris also have access to everybody, to all the tasks, except he can't see what the admin should see. So you have to like go over there and specify your use case. Because if we now come to the data section here, and let's say I'm viewing as Kira, I'm only going to see 3 rows that belongs to me, while the others are kind of like blur or blackish because Kira doesn't have access to them. Now while I'm on the back end, I still will be able to edit the data. Like you can't really change it. As long as anyone have access to the back end here, they can manipulate and do whatever they wish to the data here. But since the back end should only be used by those who have authority to the app, that should be like the app owner, while the front end is the user. So from the front end, that would be when they use the app, they really can't do anything there. But for the back end, anyone, as long as you have access to the Glide editor, you can do whatever you wish to do to any data. We will create a task management system with 3 tiers of access, where each tier will have specific permissions and multiple users could be assigned to different levels. So to build a structure like this, we'll have to leverage role owners perfectly. And to do so, we're going to create our application in Glide, and that's what we have here. I'm sure you've done that. And the first thing I want to do is we have a user table. All right, so we're going to create a few tables before we actually get started into assigning this role owner's idea. I'm just going to create a few more columns in the user table, right? So the first thing I want to do is create. I'm going to duplicate this, and I want to create a row ID. Now a row ID and an email column could work hand in hand, but because at any time the user could change its email, and let's say we have so many other rows or so many other cells with this email, then it would be a pain to change each of the cells. So what we could just do is just to assign a value that could never change no matter the situation, and that's why we use a row ID. And now I'm just going to create 2 more tables, and that will be jobs and tasks. For jobs first, we just want to have a row ID. A row ID is very important because it assigns a specific value for each row that could be used all through our apps, and it will never change. If we're using you know what, I'll just give you a brief idea now. So then we have a text column that will be the job slash title. That will be the job title, and this will be the job status. That will be job slash status, and then we have the description. That will be job slash description, right? And then we'll create a new table, call this tags, still assign a row ID for this tags, and then we have a few more columns. And first would be tag slash title. Then we have the status. No, just next we have the job. That will be tags job. That will be the job row for each task. And then we have the technicians, which this would be the technicians assigned for each task. Over here, if we were to use, okay, let's say this is a job title, right? I copy the name. That will be installing HVAC system. And over here, I just wish to set installing HVAC system. Now what about a situation where I wish to change install new HVAC system to something like install new HVAC system 400? Probably this is a new or in a different model from the initial one, right? Now this won't change because this is a written value, it's not a computed column, so it really won't change unless we have an action. And assigning and probably if we have like hundreds of rows, assigning an action to each row or to different columns would be a pain. So what we just want to do is use a identity that would never ever change, and this is why the row ID is perfect. So if I just copy this and I come over to tags, I can just paste this in its place. I'll be paste here, and then we have this row ID. As you know, this row ID would never change unless with two scenarios where an action is changing that row ID. Two, when someone on the back end, that is on the Glide editor, comes over here and just like tweak a few things, like change this row ID, and then it will mess up the whole situation. Also, probably when you delete a row. So but when you delete a row, it just won't. That's the row here. Probably you'd have to change this ID here yourself, or you are just permanently getting rid of this tax ID, of this tax row here. And finally, you'd want to create one more table, and that would just have 4 rows, a single column with 4 rows, and that'll just be not started, in progress, review, and close. Because with this, we are going to be able to let our users tell us when a job is in progress, while an admin would be the one to finalize if the job is done. What I want to do now is just to populate all these rows, particularly these 3 rows, and when we populate them, it will make our app looks more structured and would make the hierarchy be easy to understand what is going on. So I populated my data now, and here just I would please I created a few rows in the jobs column, in the jobs table, and also a few rows in the tag table, right? Oh, and over on the user profile, I have been able to make a few rows as well. I've been able to assign a few more users. All right, next, let's implement our hierarchy using the row owners feature. So row owners can be assigned using a column containing an email address or specific values. It really could be anything. And you could designate multiple row owners for a row by using the same multiple email column or multiple single value column or arrays. With this, we could maintain privacy and the hierarchy structure we are trying to build. In our app, we will set up 3 tiers of authority, which are admin, manager, and technician, where a technician could only see the data belonging to himself or herself, while the manager could see every manager and technician but can't see the admin, while the admin could see everyone's data. We will now create the necessary columns for the row ownership and assign the rows to different users. Because there are 3 authorities here, we're going to have to create 3 unique rows in the user profile. The first would be, let's create a new row, and this just be the basic idea, so you could just model this and understand it. Then eventually you could go back there and do some practice yourself. This will be row owner. Let's call this technicians. And next we're going to create a new column, and let's call this, duplicate this, let's call this row owner manager, because manager. And we're just going to create one more column. We'll call this technicians. I'll call this admin rather, because remember, because we have 3 hierarchy, we are going to have 3 columns or 3 row owner columns. So save this, and I just give this a make row owner value. Coffee. All right. Next thing is, all right, so now you notice everything is blank or black. This is because now we've assigned a row owner column or a row owner idea in this table. This row belongs to nobody, so we have to say, hey, I want this row to belong to someone. Love to go with the idea of using emails, but because, like I said, the emails could change at any time, so you don't want to use an email. Rather, we will use the row ID column. I'm just going to assign this row IDs here for each person to the technician's row, and then just get with that. All right, now that I've filled in the row ID columns to this respective technician's row, you'll notice something, and that is the rows are still blank, because whenever you're working with Glide, you have to denote the column, the row owner column, and say, hey Glide, I want this column to be the lowest. I want this column to be the main row owner column, and the main owner column should be the lowest form of hierarchy. In this situation, technicians is our lowest hierarchy, while admin is the highest. So what you do now is come over to layout, and we'll come to user profile here, and then the row, you set it to the lowest row owner hierarchy in your user profile, right? And in our use case, it is technicians, right? So when we set it to technicians, and we come over here now, Now you can see the first row is free for me because I'm Michael. Now if I view this as, let's say I'm viewing as Kira, so Kira row is also free. When Kira is viewing her row, you can see it is bright, which means she only has access to this row now. And don't worry. So next we're going to manager. We're going to say, okay, when you're a manager, you want to be able to view everybody's row, because right now, if we are viewing as Chris is the manager. Chris can only view his row, but meanwhile, I should be able to view everyone's row except the admin row. And let's just get with that. All right. So to work with the manager row owner, what we want to do is copy manager here and assign it to whichever row in the main row owner tab, or in the main row owner column, which is here. Then we assign the tag manager here, right? And we also want to assign the tag manager to here, to Emily Parker. Paste that. Now you can see Chris has access to two admins, or to two managers, him and Emily Parker. Now what I'm going to do now is assign manager to each of every row here all the way down. We're going to paste this. What is missing is me giving this row owner here, this column here, a row owner. So when I select it a make row owner, you see Chris now has access to every row here, right? And if I were to get rid of this manager tag, Chris wouldn't have access to this row anymore, right? So I'm not going to put that back there. Paste, right? This tag always have to be in the main row owner column, because this is the main one, as the one we're linking. We're telling Glide, hey, you are watching this row. This value has to be among this row, right? And if I were to write this manager tag here, Chris would have access to Michael's, the admin row, which is not what we want. So what I'm going to do is declare that. And for the admin, I'm just going to copy admin here. The same idea, we would write admin all the way down here, and then make this a row owner. So we make this a row owner just by say, come over here, make row owner. Now you notice Chris doesn't really have access to this row anymore. But let's say I'm viewing as Michael. Michael only have access to this row, not this other rows. And the reason is simple. It's mainly because over here in the main row owner column, row admin should be what is replacing the row ID here, because row ID is specific to just me alone. And if I use an admin tag, and if I use an admin as the value, admin is present in each of these rows. So when I say this as an admin, I'll be able to have access to every row here. And just give this a while to pick up, and there you have it. So this is just how you could make a simple hierarchy system in GlideApps. Now if I'm viewing as Thomas is a technician, so you only have access to his own row, as you can see here. And if I'm viewing as Emily is a manager, so she'll have access to everyone's row. So you can see it's bright, but she doesn't have access to the admin row. And if I'm viewing as Michael, which is the overall admin, I'll have access to everyone's row. And I could just also make this an admin. It really doesn't matter at this point. I could just make this an admin just so I make sure all the rows are filled up. You know what? Let me just hide this. All right. Now you have a general idea on how row owners work, and now let's get into our tasks and jobs, and let's make something awesome. So in our tasks table, what I had here was just choose the row ID for a job, and just pull it up here. For instance, in this job now, install new HVAC system 4.0 with this row ID. In tasks now, this is what we have. Now, rather than us going back and forth and checking, we could just make a relation that would allow us to see the name of the job in place. I'm just going to duplicate this and make a relation. After a relation, then we could then use a lookup. So we are relating, let's call this relation, or rather job/relation. Job relation, right? And then now we're relating the value in the job column, matching the value in jobs row ID. Okay, so we have this save, but the idea is you want to write the row owners from these values to here. Remember when I told you if they don't match, then it won't work. So having corrected that, now the IDs here come from the job profile, from the job role ID here. And that is why the relation shows, right? Now I could just have this, and I could also create a lookup to just look up the names, but I think this is fine by me for the meantime. And next thing I would want to do would be let's or assign a value for each technicians, because these are tags, right? They should be specified to one technician. And what I want to do is assign the tech and what I want to do is assign a technician for each of these tags. So I'm not going to come over here and I'll have the user ID, the row ID for the specific technician. I'll just pull it up here. Or now we have our technician's row ID written to the tags. And next I just want to do is probably, okay, now I want to see which technician I'm working with, right? Because this would be, because when you build the app, you really wouldn't be the one to write this yourselves. It would be an action that would assign this row ID here. So you don't have to do that. I'm just going to create a way for me to view the names just in case I need at some point. First thing we'll do is a relation. I'm just going to say I have this as tags or user relation. And okay, so let's make a relation where the value in tags technicians matches the value in users row ID. So it's only a single value, you can't match multiple. So save that, and that's how we have this, right? So you could see the relation, and here are the names. Over here I gave Kira 3 tags, but you really can't see it. Now for this to be defined, what we just need to do is say make this because this is technicians where we have the row ID, and over here in the main row owner columns, we kind of like work with row IDs, because row ID was like the defining value. Then we had admin, then we had the manager. Then I'm just gonna make this the make row owner. Michael, being the highest admin, really can't see anyone, so that's something we'll get into. But if I view as Kira, I'm able to view the 3 rows. As you can see, the 3 rows. And if I view as, let's say, Thomas Dylan, viewing as Thomas Dylan, yeah, I have access to 2 rows. You can see Thomas Dylan here, identical row IDs. But if I view as Chris Evans, that's the manager, he can't see anyone because that's a setting I have to make. And to do that, I'm just going to come over here. Let's say I duplicate this. Let's call this tax manager. Save this, and I could just put this back here. And what I just need to do here is just write the value here in that row. In this case, it was manager. Copy that. Writing manager in all of these rows. Now that that's written, what I'll just do would be make this, or let this be a row owner. Make row owner. And now when I view as Chris, you can see Chris now have access to each of these users. If I clear manager from here, Chris would have access to this row. And if I also clear manager from here, Chris would have access to this row, because his defining value over here needs to be, or rather his defining value over here needs to be written here. So I'm just going to drop manager back there, paste and paste. So if there's a situation where you don't want Chris to have to be able to see a tag, then you could just create a settings that will clear or not write his ID here. And the same principle will apply to the admin. We just have to duplicate this and just make this an admin type. Let's call this admin, save, and we're just writing admin everywhere. So then I'll just make this a row owner, make row owner, and here you have it. So now when I view as Michael or during an admin, I'll be able to have access to each row or each task here. And it's just a simple task management app we've been able to create that has a hierarchy function. And I could also like show you how that works on the front end. What I'll just do would be I am going to get my data here from, not from users, but rather from the tags. Oh yeah, and Glide actually just put that out, right? But instead of, okay, you know what, I could have the meta here be status, or rather, let's change that at status, while the description here will just be the name, the username, right? Oh, so to do that, we have to come over here now and get the username from here. To do that, we just have to create a lookup with the relation here to get the username. And this would be a lookup. So you should know a lookup is like looking up values from the relation or from a query. So this is a lookup from user relation. We just look up the name. That's it. Let's say user name. Then I come over here and I could just search for that's name. Name. Yep. Now we have something as awesome as this. Right. Now because I'm viewing as Mikey, I could easily see everyone's tags, and I could really go further and customize this however I wish to work on this. Well, if I'm viewing as Kira would only see three or only what is assigned to her in the tags table. Like for instance, now she's only seeing three tags that we're giving her. And if I come over here and I say, you know what, let's just make this four. Let's give Kira 4 rows, right? We just want to copy our row ID here, and probably we should assign it to Thomas on here. And this will just be replace that. Now we have Kira has 4 rows now, and over here should probably have 4 rows. Oh yeah, so it's 4. Like I said, it's probably just the speed, and that's just how it works. So what about if we want to change the technicians assigned to a task, right? How do we do that? Well, we would have to use action rows or the action tab, action ideas and automations, right? But I really don't want to include that in this particular video, because this video was just to explain the concept of how to make hierarchy and how to build the structure. If you do have an app idea in mind, I would love to chat and see how you could build it. In the description also, there's also a calendar link that you could book a meeting with me. So I'd love to hear from you and your app idea and how we could really scale that up. Have a wonderful day. Michael.